Brant is undoubtedly the most versatile character that we currently have on our roster, and one of the resonators that has a complete synergy with him due to his ultra skill is none other than Chixia, because she uses the fusion attribute and her forte called Boom Boom scales of resonance skill damage. If you're new here on the channel, welcome to another video that belongs to the Synergy Breakdown series playlist on the channel, where we dive deeper into what different resonators in Withering Waves have in common and how you can take advantage of that in combat by showing you exactly what you need to do to use them more effectively. I'm going to be breaking this video down into 4 parts, including why you should even play this team in the first place, how Chixia and Brant work together, tips and tricks that you can use, and lastly a step-by-step breakdown of their rotations. If this video proves helpful or enjoyable in any way, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon because it helps me out more than you know. Before we proceed any further, I want you guys to know that I have a complete Chixia guide on the channel, so be sure to check it out if you want more information about her. Here is a quick showcase of the rotation that I'll cover very shortly in the video. Let's start off with why you should play Chixia and Brant. Chixia is a 4-star character that is given for free to every player when you first start playing the game, and if you've been playing WoWa for quite some time, you probably have at least her S6, which increases basic attack damage bonus of all teammates by 25% for 15 seconds if Chixia uses Boom Boom, which fits Brant nicely because his main sources of dealing damage scales of basic attack damage. Chixia's damage potential at S5 is actually quite amazing for a 4-star character that you can get for free, and you can't go wrong with investing in her, especially if you're a free-to-play, because you're guaranteed a strong fusion unit if you do not have access to Encore or Changli on your account. In terms of sequences you need before it will be worth it to invest in Chixia, focus on getting at least her S4, which grants you 60 thermobaric bullets or forte stacks after using her liberation, and most importantly, it resets her resonance skill, which basically gives you a free Boom Boom. The release of Brant also provided a very underrated quality of life change for Chixia, which seems to be overlooked by many players in the WoWa community. When Chixia goes into her Daka Daka state, where she starts consuming her forte stacks, she gains a little bit of anti-interruption, which you can use to tank light attacks from enemies like this one right here to prevent her from losing access to Boom Boom when the stacks reaches this marker right here on her forte bar. However, tanking some damage from enemies with Chixia can easily send you to the afterlife, so Brant's shield is a game changer for Chixia, especially if you're like me who don't put that much investment into healers like Verena and Shorekeeper. If you're mostly interested in their buffing capabilities rather than healing. It's also worth mentioning that Brant's shield actually adds a little bit of anti-interruption to Chixia's Daka Daka state, which changes everything for Chixia mains out there. If you take a look at this clip right here, the high-speed thrust attack from Thundering Mephis did not interrupt Chixia's Daka Daka state. However, when I lost Brant's shield, the same attack from Thundering Mephis interrupted the Daka Daka state, which led to a huge damage loss because Chixia's skill is on cooldown, even though I have enough forte stacks to perform Boom Boom. So in terms of quality of life changes, this is what Chixia needed the most, so don't sleep on this team composition. Now let's get into how they work together. Brant's concerto efficiency and energy regen scaling makes him very comfortable to play with in double DPS team compositions because he does not need the intro skill from your healer to recover concerto energy or resonance energy. This means that you can always give the intro to Chixia, which helps her regain some forte stacks and resonance energy as well, which is very important for Chixia so that you can use her liberation every rotation, and her liberation also hits like a truck. However, this introduces a slight alteration in their rotations. If you give Brant an intro skill which fills 25% of his forte stacks, you do not need the mid-air charged attacks to fully regenerate his forte stacks so that you can spam his basic attacks and then use his forte skill. But in a Brant Chixia team composition, the intro will be given to Chixia, so when you use Brant's liberation, make sure to hold your basic attack button to use the first stage of his mid-air charged attacks to gain additional forte stacks, and then spam your basic attack button to continue the normal basic attack stage 3 and stage 4. And it's actually recommended to always use stage 4 because it has a very decent damage multiplier. The next thing you need to keep in mind is that if we want Brant to enjoy the buff from Chixia's S6, the more generic rotation where you just intro to Brant from your healer and then Brant to Chixia needs to be altered. What we need to do instead is to use Boom Boom after the intro from your healer, which will grant Brant the basic attack damage bonus, and then swap to Brant to use his liberation and basic attacks to drop an anchor on the enemy before we intro back to Chixia to do damage. Now let's get into some tips and tricks that you need to know for this team composition. Since we need to use Boom Boom before we swap to Brant to do damage if you have S6 Chixia, swapping too early can cancel Boom Boom's animation, so you need to wait until you hear the sound effect Boom Boom makes before you swap to Brant. Speaking of Boom Boom, one trick you can use to evade incoming damage is to use Chixia's liberation while Boom Boom is available, and then immediately press your basic attack button to use Boom Boom. You can see here that Inferno Rider's attack came in contact with Chixia while Chixia was in the Boom Boom animation, but she did not take any damage, and that's because the invulnerability frames from the liberation got extended to Boom Boom's animation, so always use this tech whenever you can. Another tip that you can use is that if you dodge while your forte stacks have gone past the marker for Boom Boom, your dodge counter will be replaced with Boom Boom instead, so be sure to keep that in mind. The last tip is related to Nightmare Inferno Rider and the Dragon of Dirge Echo. Since these echoes do not require you to use them if you want to gain the buff that they provide, you can use them to do damage in the first rotation by learning how to properly cancel their animations to save you some time. Both of these echoes start their animations on the ground before they go into the air, so all you need to do is to simply swap to another character or perform an intro skill right after you activate the echo animation, and using them early gives you the chance to use them again when your character is leaving the field. Now let's get into the rotations. Here's the build I'm currently running on Chixia and Brant. Here is a simple graphical representation of what you need to do. We first start with Shopkeeper's skill, swap to Brant and use his Echo skill, but swap to Chixia right when the Echo skill animation begins. Cast Chixia's skill to proc the Molten Rift's full set bonus and regenerate forte stacks. Then use your Echo skill. If you can't manage the Echo skill animation cancel, you can skip it and focus on using Chixia's skill instead. Swap back to Shopkeeper and fill her concerto energy with basic attacks and heavy attacks to consume her forte stacks. If she has about 75% of her concerto energy filled up, use her liberation and Echo skill. Intro to Chixia and hold your skill button to enter the Daka Daka state. And when her forte stacks goes past the marker right here, press her basic attacks to use Boom Boom. Once Boom Boom's damage lands on the enemy, swap to Brant, use his skill, and cast his liberation. Hold your basic attack button to start the mid-air charged attack animation and follow up with normal basic attacks to fully fill his forte. Then use his forte skill to drop the anchor on the enemy and cast his Echo skill. Intro with Chixia, use your skill to regain forte stacks and hold your skill button to enter the Daka Daka state. When the forte stacks goes past the marker right here, use your liberation and then press your basic attack button right after to use Boom Boom. Now hold your basic attack again to enter the Daka Daka state and then use Boom Boom once again. In this rotation, you need to use 3 Boom Booms, the first one after the intro from Shopkeeper and the second and third one after the intro from Brant. As you can see right here, we have some forte stacks left that can help us use Boom Boom to trigger the basic attack damage buff from her S6 for Brant. Use your Echo skill and intro with Shopkeeper. In the subsequent rotations, all you need to do is to intro to Chixia, enter the Daka Daka state, use Boom Boom, swap to Brant to cast his Liberation, and start doing damage as we did in the first rotation. If you're free to play and you pulled for Brant on your account, I highly suggest that you start building Chixia if you have at least her S4, because she's now even better than ever due to Brant's addition to the character roster. If you don't have her S6, you can skip the parts where we use Boom Boom before we swap to Brant. What you need to do instead in the first rotation is to intro with Chixia, swap to Brant to do his damage and feel his concerto energy, and then swap back to Chixia, but this time focus on using 3 Boom Booms, which you can easily do because by the time that you intro to Chixia, you would have 2 skill casts available to you and her Liberation. However, in the subsequent rotations, what you need to do is that every time you intro to Chixia, use her normal skill to regenerate Forte stacks before you swap to Brant to do damage, and then swap back to Chixia to do her damage, and use 3 Boom Booms as well. Expect more videos on rotation breakdown for Brant very soon on the channel. If YouTube got it right, you should like this video that pops up on your screen, so be sure to give it a watch and join our Discord community if you're having any issues with the game or you just want a place to chill and hang out. Link will be in the video description. Catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye.